Today on COVID-19 local impact, playground closures suggested by the Peterborough Public Health Unit.
We are working with municipal partners in order to close playgrounds.
Advice on overcoming new mental health hurdles.
Some people are experiencing anxiety for the very first time.
And frustration over irresponsible snowbirds in Northumberland.
You get frustrated, and I was frustrated. You almost feel your back's against the wall.
Welcome to COVID-19 Local Impact. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV Peterborough studios. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Peterborough continues to rise and is expected to do so for the foreseeable future. We'll head now to the address from earlier today with Dr. Rosanna Salvatera.
Thank you. We now have had 4 additional confirmed cases reported, and 3 of those results only came in this morning. So I'll share with you what we do know so far, but I don't have a lot of details at this point. The first additional case, which would be our 10th case, is a male in his 60s. He is hospitalized at Peterborough Regional Health Centre. He has a history of travel to Portugal, and we are still investigating his close contacts. The 11th case is a male in his 50s with travel to the Middle East. He is in self-isolation at home, and we are investigating his close contacts. Our 12th case is a female in her 50s. We are still investigating whether there is a travel history or any exposure to any other known case. She is in self-isolation at home, and we are going to be contacting close contacts on that one. And then our 13th case is a male in his 40s with travel to Mexico. And he is at home in self-isolation, and we are currently investigating his close contacts. So in total then, that brings us to 13 confirmed cases for Peterborough at the moment that we are aware of. 2 are in hospital, and all others remain in self-isolation. We are reviewing some of our earlier cases today to see if any of them can be considered resolved. So for non-healthcare workers, the province has now allowed us to clear a case if it's been more than 14 days since the onset of symptoms, and the symptoms are resolved and they are afebrile. We're able to consider that person as cleared. So we will be doing that today, and we will be reporting to the ministry before the end of the day so that they can update their numbers as well. We have 10 people booked for testing today in our clinic. Yesterday we ran our sexual health clinic, so we didn't do any testing on site, but that brings to our total in Peterborough 528 people who've been tested. We have 279 of those who are confirmed negatives. And we still have 236 where we are waiting results, so they remain under investigation. Our one COVID-19 outbreak in a long-term care home, we are still investigating that, so I don't have anything further to report to you today as to the link, whether there is an exposure history that we've been able to identify. And the good news is we have received additional swabs. We now have an inventory of 362 swabs. So that's going to see us through, I think, the next week for testing. With that, I'll just close by saying that we are today, some of our priority activities is that we are working with municipal partners in order to close playgrounds in the city and the county. The parks will remain open, but will have equipment closed and with appropriate signage.
Peterborough Mayor Diane Therrien joined us today to discuss municipal buildings being closed. She also thanked staff for the hard work they've been putting in as of late and discusses the current situation and measures that could be taken in the future.
I think the response has been appropriate. Again, this is an unprecedented situation that we're dealing with. staff have pulled together in a really great way, council as well. So, every day we're reacting to new information. As a municipality, we're obviously also subjected to what's happening at the provincial and federal levels and taking direction from what they're doing, while also figuring out how we can be proactive in our community to make sure that we're doing everything we can to slow the spread. So I think, our biggest success has been that we've been ahead of the game on, for example, closing our municipal facilities a couple weeks ago, declaring a state of emergency. I've been saying all along, I don't want to be the last to do that. You want to get out ahead because that's the only way that you can slow it down. And we're focused on maintaining the core services. So, making sure that, everybody has clean drinking water, making sure that all of those, essential services continue to run. We have been, again, changing and adapting each day on new information and new best practices. So today is Friday, and we've, announced that we're going to be, based on the recommendations of public health, closing playgrounds, which other municipalities have started to do. So, currently we, have transit running on a modified schedule. We're going to have to monitor that and see how that plays out going forward. We will be, talking on Monday at our council meeting about, property taxes and how we can help residents that are going to be dealing with that. Other municipalities have passed resolutions about, penalty deferrals and those types of things. So that's something that's forthcoming. Again, we have a lot of staff that are able to work from home, that are working from home. Our IT staff have been fabulous in setting people up with the technology that they need in order to do that, to make sure that people are still able to access the information that they need. And again, we're focused on how do we make sure that the city is able to keep running, but also making sure that we don't have anybody working or out in the community that doesn't absolutely need to be there. So it's a tough balance. And again, we are weighing our options internally, but we're also, again, looking to other municipalities and talking to them about what they're doing. And it's really a learning experience for all of us. You have, your city, all levels of government, all community partners and residents coming together to work on this in this unprecedented situation. Again, we need people to stay home if possible. We need people to self-isolate. We've heard now that it's mandatory for folks that are returning from abroad, or even in the US, which, isn't necessarily abroad. So we need people to respect the physical distancing. Again, we want people to act not as if you're afraid of getting it, but act as if you already have it and you don't want to spread it to anybody that you love and care about. And again, it's not just folks that are seniors, it's anybody with any kind of autoimmune deficiency, cancer survivors, people that have had transplants, people with respiratory issues. So we really need people to take it seriously. At the same time, we want people to be checking in, calling, neighbors. It's okay to wave from across the street and make sure people are doing okay. But, again, be courteous, be compassionate, treat this with the seriousness that it deserves. And only go out if you're able to, if you're not self-isolating, or if you're not, mandated to be in self-isolation, that you're only going out for essential trips. Try to buy the food that you need for the time being. You don't need 2 years worth of toilet paper. So just trying to use common sense. And we get that this is a challenging time for everyone. And we will get through it. It's going to be a long haul, but we will get through it.
Policing during a pandemic. Peterborough Police Chief Scott Gilbert joins us to discuss the new challenges and changes the police force is facing in Peterborough.
There's been an increase in certain types of calls for service. So we are seeing an increase in noise complaints, neighbor disputes, domestics, that sort of thing. Mainly because people are much closer to one another than they would ordinarily be, and unfortunately, in some cases, they're getting on each other's nerves. Our members are social distancing both at home and at work, so we've enacted a couple of different shifts. We've changed work hours to separate people that would normally be working side by side. For example, our civilian staff in records that would normally be working side by side, they're working different shifts, different hours. It also helps accommodate them as well with some of the childcare issues that they're having because, as you know, daycares are closed, and it is very difficult for people to look after their kids during this time. Obviously, people returning from travel outside of the country as of midnight the other night had to immediately go into quarantine. And there is what we're finding in policing is there's an issue about exchange of information, particularly when it comes to health information. So the Privacy Act kicks in, and people that are supposed to be isolating, we aren't being told about. There's been, an honor system in place ever since COVID outbreak in Canada, where we're relying on people to do the right thing, follow directions to not only protect themselves, their families, and other members in the community, but it's a pretty onerous responsibility on them to do the right thing, and that way they can ensure not only their safety and the safety of others. So we're waiting for some further direction. Who's a quarantine officer? What are the locations where people are going to have to go, and so on, and those things are still being formulated. The province did enact legislation, or the Emergency Protection Act, related to what are essential businesses and essential services, and that order by the government is only good for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, they'll either have to renew it or not. And it does outline a number of stores and businesses that are required to close during this emergency. So we have had some enforcement in that regard. We are getting calls about businesses that are open where some members of the public believe they should be closed. We investigated a couple of outlets yesterday, and they do fall within an exemption in that Essential Business Act. It's a bit of a gray area, and we'll be seeking further clarification from the province in relation to that. Everybody just needs to pay attention to what the experts are telling us. And just because you haven't seen it in your neighborhood, you haven't seen COVID on your street, you haven't been impacted by it, if you don't follow the directions of the really smart people that know what they're talking about, then we could see the situation become like what you're seeing in Italy. And it's really, really important that everybody listen to what they're being told and follow those directions. But it's also important that when the community is calling us, that they're honest with us. There is a set of screening questions that our dispatchers, both here with fire service and the paramedic service, are going to ask people. And if the answer to those questions is no or yes, it makes no difference as to the speed with which we respond to the call. What it does do is it indicates to our members what additional precautions they may have to take. And unfortunately, we are seeing, as well as paramedic services are seeing, people that are not being honest when they're answering those screening questions. The last thing that we need to do as a community is be dishonest and have a member of the emergency services be the ones that spread the virus to somebody else because you haven't been honest. The other thing is calling 911 if you think you have the symptoms of the coronavirus is not the correct thing to do. 911 is for emergency purposes only. So if you are worried about your symptoms, there's Telehealth Canada or Telehealth Ontario. You've also got the ability to call Public Health and speak to a member there, and you can go through your symptoms and they'll tell you what you should be doing next.
Mental health is at the forefront of daily conversations, perhaps more than it ever has been. Our Chris Potter spoke with happiness coach Haley Patry about how to overcome these new challenges during this difficult time.
Today we're living in a whole new world, and we need to be making very conscious choices in what we allow ourselves to participate in. New rules and protocols for even the most mundane things like grocery shopping. Stay 6 feet away from everybody. Stepping aside while you're out walking the dog, and no more leash-free dog parks. All the simple things that we've been taking for granted until now. Some people are experiencing anxiety for the very first time, not even sure what it is. When I went to a doctor many years ago with these strange symptoms, I thought I was having a heart issue. Turns out it was anxiety. These new feelings that many people are having are presenting themselves in very different ways. Some people are panic buying supplies and food, and many are starting to close themselves off completely from friends and family. We need to be vigilant and make sure that we connect with those around us that may be suffering in silence. Today, I spoke with Haley Patry. She's known as the Happiness Coach. She's written books on survival, resilience, relationships, and happiness. We need to be addressing our physical health, but we also need to be addressing our mental health. And with all of these people that are all now, in their homes for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, what can we say and what can we talk about to help people recognize where they might need some help, or give them some tools to work with?
As much as isolation and loneliness is a huge challenge at this time for people that live alone, I think today we're focusing on the joys of being quarantined with people that you're not used to having to hang out with 24 hours a day. As a mom myself with 3 young kids, I was used to total silence while I supported my clients all day and having those kids in school, daycare, and extracurriculars. I was used to my husband being out of the house, doing his work. And our reality is very similar to all of the working couples, working families with kids. Right now, it's like, how do we all not survive each other, but thrive through this situation? And the first key, the real takeaway is you've got to create a schedule and some structure. There still has to be time in the day where each person takes care of their own needs, where one person's with the kids and the other person's working on their business or their pivot for their new career, and taking turns. Because if we're all in the same pressure cooker space all the time, emotions are going to get the best of us.
Self-care is a term that we hear often, but we may not be practicing it. Find something that feeds your soul. Take a few deep breaths. With so many online resources for things you can do, there's no reason to not get started with a yoga class, learn a new language, or discover new authors, or just relax watching a new TV show or a movie. Now, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. It's an incredibly important piece. Online resources are available. You can go to bigwhitewall.ca, or if you're in crisis now or you know someone who is in crisis, you can call 705-745-6484, or toll free you can call 1-866-995-9933. For Your TV, I'm Chris Potter.
Thank you very much, Chris. As COVID-19 local impact continues on Your TV, we'll hear from local realtor Catherine Hanrahan about how the real estate market is being affected by COVID-19. Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Impact. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV Peterborough studios. Are you considering selling or buying your home and wondering how COVID-19 is affecting the real estate market? Well, you're in luck. Local realtor Catherine Hanrahan joined us to discuss exactly that.
So first, let's just take a look at the local market numbers for the city of Peterborough for the month of March. We'll compare March 2020 to March of 2019, and pretty similar numbers. March of 2020, 68 sales reported as of today, 93 active listings, versus last March, 74 sales, 93 active listings. So fairly steady numbers comparing this March to last March. We are seeing prices are up, which we saw that happening throughout the last year. So average sale price in this March is $441,000 versus last March it was $414,000. So overall, inventory levels are low, prices are up, and about the same level of active listings. What's going on right now in terms of how realtors are operating? It is, of course, not business as usual at all. We've been urged by our local body, the Peterborough Court Association of Realtors, and provincial authorities. We've been strongly urged to not operate business as usual. Obviously, we are not doing open houses anymore. Realtor.ca is no longer promoting open houses, and we've been strongly urged to avoid in-person showings and face-to-face meetings as well. Obviously, realtors and real estate services in the province have been deemed an essential service. people do still need to move. There are people who are in, the middle of a transaction or in the middle of a deal when all this came over. So it is an essential service for people who will have a major financial impact if they don't continue or close their deal. And also, times like this, times of great upheaval, things happen to people. These are big life changes. So people are going to need to move. It is an essential service. Luckily, a lot of this can be done virtually. We can do the whole transaction virtually. We're seeing a lot of more realtors now moving to virtual tours online. Again, really high quality photos, exhausting all of those means, to really present properties virtually to clients. We also don't require face-to-face interviews. Obviously, we're doing this from my home office right now. All documents can be signed virtually, and all of the entire transaction can happen virtually for people who really do need to move when it is essential. Taking a look at mortgage rates, they are actually bouncing around a bit right now. There's a good one at the moment, 2.84% fixed. But with this up and down, with the uncertainty with mortgages, it's just really important, if you do expect that you are going to need to move in the near future, talk to a mortgage broker today. Mortgage brokers can always lock you in for 3 months at a low rate. And then if it does happen to drop lower when it comes time for you to actually buy, they can, get you that lower rate. But if they go up and you're locked in, you can stay locked in at a good rate at which you're locked in. So it's always a good idea. Talk to a mortgage broker right away. Mortgage brokers do seem to be getting some better rates than the banks and big letters at this point.
With many snowbirds making the trip back home in RVs and fifth wheels, many are using shopping mall parking lots as a place to rest while entering fast food outlets and grocery stores. Northumberland Peterborough South MPP Dave Piccini worked with Smart Centres to get this issue resolved.
Well, when I heard that, you start to get you get frustrated, and I was frustrated. You almost feel your back's against the wall here, that our community, we don't think and have not mentioned the heroic work of men and women working at our grocery stores, at our supply stores, who are there every day to make sure we have the supplies that we need. And they're at risk. Our seniors, we have an elderly population, are at risk. We're a stone's throw from the hospital right there in the parking lot, and people so flippantly disregarding calls by our public health officials, whom we've come to know closely over the past number of weeks, flippantly disregarding that, going into Popeyes, going into Walmart, coming out with grocery carts full, really shows a flippant disregard for the health, safety, and well-being of residents of this community. And that's who I'm responsible for it. So I couldn't tolerate that. I spoke to Walmart management. They were very frustrated as well. I don't know if many people know, but Smart Centres manages or owns the parking lot there. So I got in touch with them, and within 4 hours, we got a call back. Smart Centres said, we're going to tow you if you don't leave. So that decisive response was positive. I was there last night on my way home, well past midnight, and it was empty. So I'm pleased to see their response. I spoke to the police about it. They certainly were not happy to see that, and they moved quickly. So I think we're moving quickly as a community, but my plea to everyone is, whether it be friends, neighbors, others you see, please encourage folks. They have to practice social distancing. The health and well-being of your neighbors depends on it. You might think you don't have it. You very well might. It's in the community now. So please take personal measures, everybody, to socially distance yourself, as you and I are doing now, as others are doing, and together we'll get through this.
One final message to the residents of Northumberland, Peterborough South that you would have for them.
Well, I would say to our residents that through these difficult times, I'm here to support you. Our government's here to support you. We've moved quickly by declaring a state of emergency, by an unprecedented investment into our economy and into the direct hands of individuals, be it seniors, parents, our businesses, deferring cash flow for our small businesses that are feeling the struggle during these times. But we stand ready. The Premier has daily come before Ontarians saying we're ready and willing, and I stand willing with our team to provide whatever support's necessary. I've been working with our public health officials, with our broader health sector, with our hospitals, with our frontline providers, with our long-term care homes. Whichever way you look at it, additional investments are going to all of these aspects, and I think it's forced our community to come together. And you're seeing a whole of government approach here, but we stand ready to support Ontarians at every step of the way, and we will do whatever it takes and mobilize any resources to ensure that we emerge stronger.
With a look at how COVID-19 affects local schools, we spoke with Principal of Monsignor O'Donoghue Catholic Elementary School, Shelley Adair, who has reached out to parents to assure them that there is still support available.
Dear parents, guardians, and students, we want to reach out to our families in this challenging time when we are all participating in physical distancing and self-isolation. We recognize this is challenging on many levels and want you to know that we are thinking about you and praying for everyone. We love our school and we miss our kids and their families. Do not hesitate to reach out if there are things that we can do to support you. School is so much more than curriculum for many students, and we know how important our Catholic school family is to all of us. We know that families are concerned about their children's continued learning. The Ministry of Education, in close discussion with school boards across Ontario, are working on a plan to engage school board staff in supporting student learning and during this time of school closure. It is an unprecedented situation, and we ask for your continued patience. We will provide clear and consistent direction to you in the near future. We remain committed to supporting all of our students in whatever way we can, given the restrictions we are all required to follow. We will have more information for all students and parents in the near future relative to the grade of your children. If your children have particular challenges with regards to access to the computer, a laptop, an iPad, or any other device, or have issues with internet, please let us know to assist us with our planning. Should your family require assistance, such as we normally provide through our nutrition and snack programs, families can access their local food banks for support. These agencies have received financial support from our school board, including St. Vincent de Paul's Food Pantry and Kawartha Food Share. Please contact them if you need to receive any assistance necessary to keep your children safe and healthy during this time. We, along with our school staff, are working from home. Please do not hesitate to reach out to the school if you need to. To reach out to us, refer to the information on your screen. You are all in our thoughts and prayers.
We'll keep you updated as new developments occur with the school boards locally. Also today, you should have received an emergency alert as the province continues to stress the importance of self-isolation once returning from abroad. That's our show for today. We'll be back on Monday. I'm Dan Malta.